Can we go ahead and start, Prabhu?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with the Mangalacharan prayers. First of all, thank you everybody for joining today and for reading the Bhagavatam session. We'll go through the Mangalacharan prayers first, and then look into the verse for some possible discussion. Okay. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Share my screen. Okay. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, Verse 8. Chapter 26 is labeled as Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Okay. So let's go through the verse first. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे कारणं प्रकृतिं विदु भोक्तृत्वे सुखदुःखानां पुरुषां प्रकृते परम्. One more time. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे कारणं प्रकृतिं विदु भोक्तृत्वे सुखदुःखानां पुरुषां प्रकृते परम्. Let's look at the word-to-word translation. Karya, the body. Karana, the senses. Kartrutve, regarding the demigods. Karanam, the cause. Prakritim, material nature. Viduhu, the learned understand. Bhoktrutve, regarding the perception. Sukha, of happiness. Dukkhanam, and of distress. Purusham, the spirit soul. Prakrite, to material nature. Param, transcendental. Let's look at the translation. The cause of the conditioned soul's material body and senses, and the senses presiding deities, the demigods, is the material nature. This is understood by learned men. The feelings of happiness and distress of the soul, who is transcendental by nature, are caused by the spirit soul himself. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that when the Lord descends to this material world, he comes as a person by his own energy, Atma Maya. He is not forced by any superior energy. He comes by his own will, and this can be called his pastime or Leela. But it is clearly stated that the conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses under the three modes of material nature. That body is not received according to his own choice. In other words, a conditioned soul has no free choice. He has to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. But when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself. If he so desires, the spirit soul can change this conditioned life of dualities by choosing to serve Krishna. The living entity is the cause of his own suffering, but he can also be the cause of his eternal happiness. When he wants to engage in Krishna consciousness, a suitable body is offered to him by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord. And when he wants to satisfy his senses, a material body is offered. Thus, it is his free choice to accept a spiritual body or a material body. But once the body is accepted, he has to enjoy or suffer the consequences. The Mayavadi philosopher's representation is that the living entity enjoys his pastimes by accepting the body of a hog. This theory is not acceptable. However, because the word pastime implies voluntary acceptance for enjoyment. Therefore, this interpretation is most misleading. When there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. The Lord's pastimes and the conditioned living entities' acceptance of karmic reaction are not on the same level. One more time, let's go through the verse. कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे कारणं प्रकृतिं विदु भोक्तृत्वे सुखदुःखानां पुरुषां प्रकृते परम्. Okay, let's go through some of the points that I could put something together for my benefit, and hopefully it will give something to carry for today for everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, some of the points that I could see in this verse is the Supreme Lord's nature and how he comes into this world. So, in the in the first few lines, Prabhupada mentions like how it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Lord descends to this material world by his own will. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, Lord mentions, Ajopi Sanaya Vyayatma Bhutanami Swaropi San Prakritim Swamadishtaya Sambhavaya Atmaya Maya. So, though I'm unborn and I am of imperishable nature, and though I am the Lord of all beings, yet ruling over my nature, I take birth by my own Maya. So he mentions in Bhagavad Gita that he comes by his own will, not like not under any conditions or any circumstances. So he's not forced by any superior energy, but by his own will. So anything that when he comes onto this material world and does becomes a pastime or lila for us to relish. Like for example, let's take a prison, and if a common man goes there, he goes probably to complete his punishment for any misdeed that he has done. So he has no choice but to accept the sentence that is given to him, and based on his based on how he lives there, and based on how he completes his sentence may be reduced, or he has to complete his sentence with and then come out. But whereas Lord comes like a president who is visiting the jail, his purpose is to probably improve the conditions there, purpose of his visit, or to give pardon to some of the people who have performed better or have shown some good conduct. Now, everybody enters through the same door, but that doesn't mean president is going to do the same thing as the convict. So similarly, like as I said, when God comes on his own will, Lord comes on his own will, we in the next sentence it says, a conditioned soul is forced to take a certain type of body and senses, and they have no free choice but to accept a certain type of body according to his karma. So we don't based on all the acts, good things and bad things that we do in our previous lives, we get a certain type of body and certain type of based on the karma we did, based on the desires we had. First of all, with the desire that we want to enjoy, we came here. So then, based on all the actions we performed, whether good or bad, we got this body. So, and based on the activities that we do now, our next lives are decided. So, and then in the next sentence, I felt it very important. All it is but when there are bodily reactions as felt in happiness and distress, it is to be understood that the cause is the spirit soul himself, that we are responsible for the happiness and distress. So this sounded like a great sentence, because most of the conflicts, whether within, inside, outside in the world, are mostly people, when we think that somebody is the reason for our distress, we try to blame somebody when we have when we have when we have an issue, or when we have something wrong going. Oh, that because of that person, today I am going through this. But when I read the sentence, it sounded very important to understand and digest that we are the sole responsible people, sole responsible for our own happiness and distress. There is nobody else who is causing um, um, any distress or any mistake to our own life. So I remember Gaur Gopal Prabhu saying one time, don't give the key of your happiness to anybody. It will only lead to distress and frustration. Um, and this when I was going through this verse, it again ascertained to me the same thing. That we write our own happiness and we write our own suffering. So and then based on if we do good things or if we perform, then the next sentence, Prabhupada says, if we engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. So, and then for and then because of being being dedicated and doing bhakti, a suitable body is offered to us by the internal potency, the spiritual energy of the Lord. So when we want to perform bhakti, we are given a suitable body, which is a spiritual body, by the spiritual energy of the Lord. But when we want to enjoy the senses, when we want to satisfy the senses, a material body is offered. So there is a difference in the body being offered based on what we want to do. So that thus it is his free choice to accept a spiritual body or a material body. So keeping that desire of what we want to do, based on which we will get a body. That's where the choice lies. So if we choose to perform Krishna consciousness, take the Lord's guidance by reading scriptures, by following Guru, or practicing devotional service in life, and having a self-control, we can attain the spiritual body and perform our devotional service. Whereas if we want to have probably all the pleasures in this material world, we will receive the body accordingly, and we will then go through the transmigration of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi continuously, and there is no unless we realize that we need to take the path of bhakti, there is no breakage of that, and we will based on what we do, we will get different kinds of bodies. So and then here it says then the comparison of the pastime, Lord's pastime and the living entity. So some people think that okay, even a person who takes a birth like a hog is also doing the same is also doing the same thing as the Lord, but that's not the case, because the Lord came on his own will and doing things on his own will, and then leaving when he wants to. But we don't have that choice. We have to complete our karma in this material world based on the body we took, and then and when we complete that, and then only we can return back. So we have very little choice. So then, because of which we cannot compare Lord's pastimes versus conditioned living entities, acceptance of karmic reaction. So then then we can see how we can what is the role of a devotional service and guidance. So when we want to develop the desire, and when we want to develop the desire of performing bhakti, the first option that we have is the Lord, who we have Lord sitting as Paramatma in our heart. And if we look at Paramatma and seek guidance, then which is who is residing in everybody's heart, when we seek guidance, and then when we get rewarded with the progress, and that helps in controlling our mind and senses, and which is very, very, very crucial for breaking free from the material world's entanglement. The greatest examples are Guru Maharaj, who are in this material world but don't belong to this material world, because they're constantly performing devotional service. So that's a great example of a spiritual body, because when we when we learn about a guru, the first thing we hear is guru is not guru is not materialistic. He's a spiritual person, spiritual entity. Why? Because even though they have the material body, even though they are living on this material planet, their body is spiritual, because they're constantly performing devotional service, doesn't care about the material entanglements, but only think about the Lord all the time, and give Krishna consciousness to the rest of the world. So that is kind of spiritual, attaining spiritual body, which we should take inspiration from. We cannot become them, but we can certainly take inspiration from them and perform as much Krishna consciousness as possible. And I'm sure when we follow the path and when we choose a perfect person who is performing to the best of the Krishna consciousness, we will also find the perfect route, like how we found Srila Prabhupada and his books. So we will also one day. I mean, it's very hopeful because Prabhupada says, unless all are delivered, unless all my followers are delivered, I'll be at the gate. So he gave a very great promise for us and made us very hopeful, saying that, okay, we'll all be delivered provided we follow the path that he gave us. So rest is assured that, when we follow bhakti to the best of our abilities and understand that we are completely responsible for where we are going to be and also for our happiness and distress, we will attain Krishna or at least Krishna Seva for sure. So those are some of the things that I was able to put together from this verse. Anybody has any comments or any thoughts to share? Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. I think it's thinking it is the what is that wish that we have to do, not wish, what is that called?
Desire.
Desire, or yeah, that is the one thing that we can have, and the other thing will be followed, right? So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's the seed where everything starts from. So so we have to be very, very careful at that point, the inception point of the desire itself. So, and I mean, um, at least going forward, being careful of what we actually, there are so many desires that we keep getting every single day. So at least if we are conscious, it will get refined slowly, and then we'll focus on what we need to be desiring.
I mean, it's actually says based on that the body will be given. I mean, of course, we will formulate that body. I mean, right? Based on that. I mean, even in this life, you gave the examples of, I mean, many pure devotees,
Yeah,
right? So, thank you.
sure, Prabhu. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Nothing. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And I'm very thankful that I got this opportunity. Okay. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Have a wonderful and blissful Krishna conscious day.